Terrorism in Burkina Faso refers to non-state actor violence in Burkina Faso that is carried out with the intent of causing fear and spreading extremist ideology. Terrorist activity primarily involves religious terrorism conducted by foreign-based organizations, although some activity occurs because of communal frustration over the lack of economic development. Recent attacks are concentrated in the Hautes Bassins, Bouclés du Mohun, Nord, Sahel, and Est regions, along the border with Mali and Niger. A series of attacks in Ouagadougou in 2016, 2017, and 2018 by Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and its affiliates was particularly deadly, garnering international attention. Counterterrorism efforts by Burkina Faso include domestic and regional security efforts, preventing terrorism-related economic transactions, and cooperating with the West, often through partnerships like the G5 Sahel and Trans-Sahara Counterterrorism Partnership. However, security force violence and alleged human rights abuses regularly undermine these efforts. In response to the growing attacks, the government declared a state of emergency in December 2018 in several northern provinces. The failure of the government to stem terrorist attacks led to the 2019 resignation of former Prime Minister Paul Thiba. Overall, terrorism has had a significant impact in Burkina Faso, displacing more than 100,000 people and diminishing access to public services. Prior to 2015, there were no recorded terrorist incidents in Burkina Faso. However, the country experienced 7 coups during this time period, the most of any African country. Additionally, there were some reports that terrorist financing and fundraising were taking place domestically. Some argue that then-President Blaise Compaoré, who was in power from 1987 to 2014, partnered with terrorist organizations, while most research suggests that partnerships between Compaoré and terrorist organizations did exist. The exact nature of these agreements remains unverified. In particular, some reports show that Compaoré brokered an agreement with Tuareg rebel groups in Mali associated with Al-Qaeda in trade for operating in Burkina Faso. The Tuareg groups and associated terrorist organizations allegedly agreed not to carry out attacks within the country. In addition, Compaoré allowed special forces from France and the US to operate in Burkina Faso, serving as a key partner for counterterrorism efforts in the Sahel. Such partnerships led to descriptions of Burkina Faso as West Africa's linchpin by the media. Linchpin states signify crucial but endangered allies in creating a global anti-terror regime. During this time period, attacks in Burkina Faso increased both in number and fatality rate. Such incidents garnered international attention, especially including 3 major terrorist attacks in Ouagadougou in 2016, 2017, and 2018. According to Joe Penny, this spike in activity can perhaps be attributed to the current government's discontinuation of Compaoré's practice of negotiating with terrorist organizations. Another more referenced cause is the weakened Burkina Faso security apparatus. In 2014, popular uprisings removed Compaoré from power. Following his removal, the Burkina Faso Regiment of Presidential Security, who was loyal to Compaoré, carried out a coup in 2015 against the transitional government. Although the coup failed, the RSP was dissolved, weakening the state security apparatus and allowing terrorist organizations to increase their operations domestically. The RSP included about 1,300 soldiers and had received training from the US and France in counterterrorism practices. Following its dissolution, this technical expertise and manpower was no longer available to contribute to security efforts. For comparison, Burkina Faso's entire armed forces currently has approximately 11,200 personnel minus the RSP, thus constituted about 10% of Burkina Faso's army. More recently, human rights organizations have also accused the security forces of carrying out atrocities, leaving scores dead and forcing tens of thousands of villagers to flee their homes. Some argue that the human rights abuses conducted by the security forces in the name of counterterrorism undermines their effectiveness at preventing terrorist attacks, because abuses make locals less likely to collaborate with security forces against terrorist organizations. In response to the increased terrorist threat, in November 2016, Burkina Faso decided to withdraw its soldiers from United Nations peacekeeping in Sudan to refocus Military efforts on fighting terrorism domestically and to help reinforce existing security forces. Beginning in December 2018, there was a spike in terrorist activity in Burkina Faso. Over a 2-month period, there were 8 terror attacks, killing over 30 people altogether, in response to a terror attack near the border with Mali on December 27, 2018 that killed 10 gendarmes. The Burkina Faso government